everybody. Welcome back to Social Strategies Simplified with Sue, where we break down the social media strategies of top industry professionals who are doing amazing things to gain reach and ROI on their social media content producing efforts with less work, so that they can spend time in their business, on their business, work in their genius, and more time for fun in their life. And I would like to demonstrate this to you by using the Hub and Spoke content framework, which demonstrates a method by which you too can implement these solutions into your business. So if you are not in the industry of the person I am featuring each week, that is okay, because these solutions, strategies, and best practices can be applied to any business. So they too can work for you. So if you're here with me live, give me a hashtag live in the comments. If you're on the replay later on, give me a hashtag replay. And if you would like to be notified when I go live, give me a hashtag me or drop me a note in my DMs, and I'll make sure you know when each session is going live. So we are on our third day of spokes. Mondays we do our hub and demonstrate the primary feature, and then each day throughout the week we get into the spokes of the content framework, and then on Fridays we discuss the final step of how they have time now to keep engaging with their audience. So each day I also do a little bit of a breakdown of the past days, not to repeat the process, but really to make sure that each step of the way we're seeing this demonstration and how it leads into that next spoke. So we've been looking at our friendly popcorn finance podcast master, Chris Browning, and what he has been doing to really elevate his work on social media. So what we see on his website, as we reviewed from the start, the hub, channel, and content is his podcast, and that is clear from his headline. He's got his social proof, and we see on the side that he is driving traffic specifically to his podcast. He's got those episodes featured on the main piece of his website and on the right-hand panel to drive us over there. So we then took a peek at those podcasts, how we can see, as most savvy podcasters do, make sure that they are across the podcast landscape. So that is Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Apple, whatever else you might be able to extend your digital reach and reach the audience that lives on those different podcast favorites. So you want to meet your audience where they are at, creating that one piece and getting it out across as many channels as you possibly can. So that first piece of that hub is this podcast, where you can see the audio is replicated, the graphic design is the same, and it gives him extraordinary reach on social media. Now, the way that he gets this across social media is where we start to get into the masterful concept of this hub and spoke framework, where we demonstrated that he then turns those podcasts into videos. And he does this in both directions. So this is a great demonstration here because, one, his podcast is audio only. So he overlays the graphic design, as you can see in these first ones, the Get the Pay You Deserve, Writing the Perfect Cover Letter. And then the other one, he has a second podcast called This Is Awkward Live that he does live. And so that one is actually created as a video and then redistributed as he pulls the audio off to create the podcast. So as we take a step back and think about why I'm doing this, is to demonstrate to business owners, personal brands, that you too can create and simplify your social media life by doing these same things. And while it may look like a lot as we walk through what Chris has done here, it actually is a structure that once you implement it and you get all your pieces of the puzzle in place, it really makes things easier. You have your podcast set up, you have your video set up, you have your graphic design templates, and then you just simply get into creation and distribution mode. So if you are doing a podcast, if you are doing video, these are the methods that you can use so that you're not creating constantly other additional content. You have more time by using what you've already created, making the most out of that investment, and getting seen more, getting more visibility, getting more clients. So as we then noted yesterday, we took that from YouTube and showed how he then repurposes once again onto his Instagram channel. So we use this one as the example. As we could see here, he's got this Get the Pay You Deserve a podcast that he did, episode 232. We see how he brought that over to Instagram with the right reformatting of the graphic design. This is something that you can do in Canva for work. You can create the designs that you want as your thumbnails on your videos, resize it with a little bit of tweaking. Now you've got your Instagram post, your Twitter post, your LinkedIn post, wherever you want to take that into further distribution to reach more people so that they can also learn from your guidance. So we could also see how here he repeats that process, right? He's got a few different ones. Writing the perfect cover letter. There's another one down here, I believe, as well. So you can see how he creates a little bit of a different design, updates the text, and boom, he's got another post that is fresh, that is new, that features a different piece of information that he talked about in the podcast, so that if you don't go back to the podcast, you still benefit from the content that he's placed there. So today, I wanted to take a look at a few other channels, and as you might notice, in each of these demonstrations, we have the hub, which has the most content and has the most love and attention, right? Then we have maybe one or two spokes that also get a lot of love and attention, where the business, the brand is replicating and distributing that content. Then the whole idea here is that it helps to simplify your desire to have a cross-channel implementation. Now, that doesn't mean you have to work every channel to its fullest depth, okay? And we see that in these demonstrations, because what this allows you to do is to take this content and then, again, be somewhere else. Now, all of these people are not necessarily putting the content consistently on all channels. They're not necessarily engaging on all channels. And you know what? That's okay. That is okay, because it's a way for them to get additional visibility, but drive traffic back to the channels that they are most active on. So here we can see Chris has pinned a tweet that he put up, which is the same post that he has on his main website page as well as his YouTube channel, to introduce you to the concept of the Popcorn Finance podcast. So this is a great way for him to leave something at the top of his Twitter account that showcases his brand, his great, warm, welcoming personality, and his expertise, while taking you back to his podcast. Now, he does use Twitter a bit, not quite as much as Instagram, and that's just fine. But again, you can see here, we saw this same podcast and graphic design on the YouTube channel, formatted a little bit differently on Instagram, and again, formatted a bit differently on Twitter as well. And the importance of that is, as you can see with the mentions, these may show up very differently on Instagram. A lot of times what we see is people do a just scheduled cross post, and then when that post ends up on a secondary channel like Twitter or Facebook, the mentions do not come through unless that person's username are exactly the same. And we can tell here that he's made sure to address that, whether it is scheduling at a different time and tweaking it a bit. You want to make sure you take just that extra minute or two that it might take to edit your content, make sure the hashtags are relevant for the channel, and make sure your mentions and tagging are relevant for the channel as well. Because if that doesn't come through, it's going to clutter your copy, and you're not going to get as much of the engagement and the click-throughs that you desire. And that's all part of the goal here, right? Is to appeal to your audience and serve people where they're at. So let's take those little extra steps to make sure your creation is presented in its best package to the people you are gifting it to. And that's really what it is, isn't it? It's a gift. Chris is doing a lot of great work in breaking down complex things for people at a very important time. And so he wants to make sure that that reaches them. So as I said, he takes this over to Twitter, crafting it for the channel. But again, not as active on Twitter as you saw he was on Instagram, which is sort of that second spoke which is just fine. It's an additional platform, but he is there to meet other people who also may be talking about him, right? So we can see here, he was on another podcast with this Baron Bull. They mentioned him. He came on, retweets it, comments to people. So staying engaged where he is being discussed. So this then just takes a little bit of that extra time when you've already prepared your structure of content that is reusable and repurposable. Because imagine if he spent this time creating these amazing podcasts and then just posted it once. Just posted it up on Spotify and Apple and never discussed it ever again. And that is unfortunately what a lot of people do. They put amazing time and effort into the development and creation of a podcast or a video, and then they put it in one place, but without this cross distribution, so many people are missing out on experiencing your genius, and you're not maximizing that investment you're making in your creation efforts. So even if it's one other channel, think about where you can reuse and repurpose in a way similar to what Chris is doing here. So this is the third spoke in our hub and spoke content breakdown of Chris Browning's Popcorn Finance podcast. Go check it out. You will probably learn a lot, not only about finance, but also about using this model of content creation and redistribution in a way that it appeals to each channel and helps you reach different audiences and drive them back to your primary hub content. So you're putting in the effort, make sure people can see you, find you, and learn from you. Maximize those efforts in that one thing that you do really well instead of spreading yourself so thin. That is the goal. Reduce the overwhelm, make the most out of what you're doing. So we're gonna come back tomorrow to wrap up the week with a recap about how by implementing in this fashion, Chris has time to then come back and respond to his community and do more from the bits that he has already created. And I hope the same for you. If you have any questions on how you can implement this into your business, please feel free to drop me an email, connect directly, message me. But I've also got all of these episodes, as well as some other presentations and tips and tricks on the socialmediavault.com. So if you go over to socialmediavault.com, you'll be able to access all of this for free. Just drop your email in so that you can log in and get access. And I can actually show you this really quickly. Can I? I can. Here it is. So here's a sneak peek of the resources that you have available to you in the Social Media Vault. So while they are all live on my accounts, this is a great way to get everything centralized in one place. And if you'd like, you can jump to the person that resonates most with you. So they're all here for your consumption, a few other things to help you get by and learn some new things in the world of social media. So check that out at socialmediavault.com. I look forward to seeing you back tomorrow before we head into another weekend. I will see you then.